Have you ever had a moment when the past suddenly collides with the present, and you're left questioning everything you thought you knew? Marcus raises his voice above the chatter. All right, everyone, settle down. Let's begin. The students begin to quiet down, turning their attention to the front of the room. Marcus glances at the attendance list before looking up. The door creaks open, and a late arrival steps in. Ethan, 16, walks in, and for a moment, the entire room seems to blur. Marcus's eyes widen, and he grips the papers in his hand tightly. The resemblance is undeniable. Ethan looks strikingly similar to Marcus's missing son, Luke, who disappeared years ago. Marcus's face flushes with shock. You must be Ethan," Marcus says, his voice faltering. "Yeah, sorry I'm late. I got a little lost," Ethan responds. Marcus nods, swallowing hard, struggling to regain his composure. "That's all right. Find yourself a seat, please," Marcus says tentatively. Ethan smiles politely and takes a seat at the back of the class. Marcus watches, his mind drifting away from the lesson plan. He blinks, forcing himself back to the present, but the uncanny resemblance gnaws at him, stirring painful memories of his son and late wife. The camera fades into a warm, cozy living room. Marcus, with a much lighter demeanor, sits on the couch with his wife, Emily, and their son, Luke, 10. They laugh together, playing a board game. Emily's laughter is gentle, the kind that fills a room and makes it feel like home. "Luke, you're too good at this. Are you sure you're not cheating?" Emily says, smiling. "I swear, Mom, I'm just that good." Luke grins. Marcus ruffles Luke's hair playfully, his eyes filled with warmth. "All right, champ. One more round, and then it's bedtime," Marcus says. The scene blurs as Marcus's laughter fades, the colors darkening. Marcus is on the phone, pacing, his face lined with worry. His voice is shaky. "I don't understand. He was just outside. He can't have gone far." The sound of Emily's sobbing echoes faintly as Marcus's eyes close, his hand trembling. He looks over at the empty bed where his son should be sleeping. Marcus snaps back to the present, his heart pounding. He looks at Ethan, who is quietly taking notes. Marcus's eyes fill with a mixture of confusion, hope, and fear. He clears his throat, trying to regain focus on the lesson, but the memories have left him shaken. Who is he? Could it really be just a coincidence? The school day ends, and Marcus finds himself sitting at his cluttered desk long after the students have left. He is staring at his computer screen, typing Ethan High School student into the search bar, but nothing helpful comes up. He exhales sharply, frustrated. His thoughts are chaotic, each one more overwhelming than the last. It's probably just a coincidence, but what if it's not? What if there's something more? Marcus opens a drawer, pulling out an old, worn photo of Luke. He stares at it, the resemblance between Luke and Ethan haunting him. His hand shakes as he traces the outline of his son's face. "I have to know," Marcus whispers softly to himself. Marcus's eyes harden with determination. He picks up his phone and dials a number. "Hey, James, I need your help. It's about Luke." The next day, Marcus sits across from Detective James, 40s, a rugged-looking man with a kind demeanor. James shuffles through some papers before looking at Marcus. "Marcus, you know I'll help in any way I can, but are you sure about this? This could reopen old wounds," James says. Marcus nods, his expression resolute. "I know, James, but I can't just ignore it. He looks exactly like Luke. I need to know who he is, where he came from, if there's even a chance." James sighs, nodding in agreement. "All right, we'll start with public records and see if we can get access to any adoption files. But Marcus, you have to be prepared for whatever we find, good or bad," James says. Marcus swallows, his eyes betraying the anxiety and hope swirling within him. I need the truth, James." The next few days are a blur of phone calls, emails, and restless waiting. James contacts old colleagues, trying to open doors to records that are otherwise sealed. Marcus's obsession grows, his mind plagued by sleepless nights and endless questions. He stares at the ceiling, remembering all the small moments with Luke. The bedtime stories, the laughter, the way Luke would look back at him when he was scared, searching for reassurance. Marcus is tired, but his determination refuses to fade. One night, he sits on the couch, staring at a half-empty glass of whiskey. His mind is racing, thoughts of Ethan, Luke, and Emily intertwining. He picks up the old photo of Luke from the coffee table, his eyes misting over. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm just desperate for something that isn't there? His phone buzzes, breaking the silence. It's a text from James. Found something. Meet me tomorrow. Marcus's pulse quickens as he reads the message. He closes his eyes, taking a shaky breath. No matter what it is, I have to know, Marcus says to himself. The following day, Marcus paces nervously in James's office as James pulls out a document, his expression serious. Marcus, I found Ethan's original adoption papers. His biological mother. Her name was Rachel Miller, James says. Marcus frowns, the name unfamiliar. Rachel Miller. I don't know that name, Marcus says. She's not connected to Emily or anyone we know. I'm sorry, Marcus. There's no link to Luke here, James says. Marcus's shoulders sag, the hope that had kept him going crumbling away. He slumps into a chair, his face a mask of anguish. So, it really was just a coincidence, Marcus says, his voice breaking. James watches his friend, sympathy in his eyes. I know this is hard, but you did everything you could to find out. You owe it to yourself to find some peace now, Marcus, James says. Marcus nods, his eyes filled with tears. He wipes his face, trying to steady himself. I wanted it to be him so badly. I wanted a second chance, Marcus says softly. James reaches out, putting a comforting hand on Marcus's shoulder. Luke will always be with you, Marcus, in your heart, in your memories. You haven't lost him, James says. Marcus looks up at James, his eyes filled with gratitude and sorrow. Thank you, James. I think I need to let go, for real this time, Marcus says. That evening, Marcus returns home, the house empty and quiet. He goes to the living room, sitting on the couch and looking at the picture of Luke on the mantel. For the first time, he allows himself to truly feel the grief, without pushing it aside. Tears fall freely, and Marcus closes his eyes, remembering the warmth of his wife's laughter and his son's smile. The next day, Marcus stands at the front of the classroom, a calm expression on his face. The students filter in, chatting amongst themselves. Ethan walks in, offering Marcus a polite nod. Marcus nods back, a soft smile tugging at his lips. It's not Luke, but maybe that's okay. Maybe it's time I stop looking for what I've lost and start appreciating what I still have. Marcus picks up a piece of chalk, turning to the blackboard. He writes the day's lesson plan with steady hands. He glances back at Ethan, who is focused on his notebook. All right, everyone. Today, we're diving into something new, Marcus says, raising his voice. The classroom quiets as the students turn their attention to Marcus. He smiles, his eyes showing a hint of warmth and acceptance. Let's begin. Weeks pass, and Marcus finds himself adapting to the routine again. The sharp pain of seeing Ethan's face slowly dulls into something bittersweet. Marcus notices Ethan's eagerness in class, his natural curiosity, the way he raises his hand when he has questions. There's something about Ethan's earnestness that reminds Marcus of Luke, not in looks, but in spirit. One day, after class, Ethan approaches Marcus, hesitating slightly before speaking. Mr. Evans, I just wanted to thank you. You've made math actually interesting, Ethan says, smiling. Marcus chuckles, a warmth spreading through him. He hadn't realized how much he missed connecting with his students. "I'm glad to hear that, Ethan. You've got a real knack for it," Marcus says. Ethan nods, then pauses, looking at Marcus with a curious expression. "You know, I feel like you understand me. I don't know why, but it's like you really care," Ethan says, his voice sincere. Marcus's breath catches in his throat. He looks at Ethan, seeing not Luke, but a young man who needed guidance, a young man who needed someone to believe in him. "I do care, Ethan, more than you know," Marcus says, his voice steady. Ethan smiles, and Marcus watches as he turns and leaves the classroom, his heart feeling just a little lighter. As the school year progresses, Marcus finds himself laughing more, engaging with his students more fully. He begins to understand that while he lost his son, his capacity to love and to nurture hadn't been taken from him. He still had so much to give. One quiet afternoon, Marcus visits the cemetery where Luke and Emily are buried. He kneels by their graves, placing fresh flowers down. The wind is gentle, rustling the leaves overhead. He closes his eyes, feeling the presence of his family around him. "I'm learning to let go," Marcus says softly, "but I'll never forget you. I promise I'll live in a way that would make you proud." He stands, a sense of calm washing over him. As he leaves the cemetery, the sun breaks through the clouds, and Marcus takes it as a sign of hope, of acceptance, of new beginnings. The classroom is filled with chatter, the sound of pens scratching paper, and the occasional burst of laughter. Marcus stands at the front, watching his students, the weight of grief replaced with a quiet sense of purpose. If you found Marcus's journey compelling, remember that life can bring unexpected twists, but it's how we face them that shapes who we become. Please like, share, and subscribe for more stories that explore the human spirit, resilience, and the courage to move forward. "All right, everyone," Marcus says, smiling. "Let's dive into something new."